Well, let me ask you something. 2 years ago, you could not open the news without seeing Ukraine everywhere. Television, social media, YouTube, every headline was about the war. You probably remember those first weeks in February 2022. Cities being bombed, millions of people running across borders, world leaders making strong speeches. Back then, it felt like the whole world was watching. But today, well, you see, something strange happened. The war did not stop, but the attention did. So the real question is, did the world forget Ukraine? And if the world stopped watching, who benefits from that silence? Let's talk about it. Well, first we need to understand how big the Ukraine war really is. When Russia launched its invasion in 2022 under President Vladimir Putin, it became the largest war in Europe since World War II. According to the United Nations, more than 10 million Ukrainians were forced to leave their homes. About 6 million became refugees in other countries. Cities like Mariupol, Bakhmut, and Kharkiv were heavily destroyed. And the cost? Experts say the damage to Ukraine's economy could be more than $400 billion. But despite all this, the fighting never stopped. Even today in 2026, soldiers are still fighting in eastern Ukraine. Missiles are still hitting cities, and thousands of soldiers on both sides have died. So if the war is still happening, why does it feel like nobody talks about it anymore? Well, you see, the answer is global attention. The world's attention moves very fast. When the invasion started, media coverage was massive. A study by the GDELT project, which tracks global news, found that in the first months of the war, Ukraine dominated international headlines more than almost any event in recent history. But attention slowly dropped. By late 2023 and 2024, Ukraine stories became smaller, fewer, and less frequent. And something else happened. Another conflict suddenly exploded in the news. The war in the Gaza Strip between Israel and Hamas. That conflict quickly became one of the most reported wars in the world. Images from Gaza, airstrikes, hostages, protests in many countries. Suddenly, global media shifted the focus. One study by the Media Tenor Institute found that coverage of Gaza became 3 times higher than coverage of Ukraine during some months. Well, you see, this is how global news works. Media attention is limited. When a new crisis appears, the older crisis slowly disappears from headlines. But the war in Ukraine did not disappear. Only the attention disappeared. And this creates a very important question. Is this helping Vladimir Putin? Many experts believe yes. Because wars are not fought only on the battlefield. They are also fought in politics, money, and public opinion. Ukraine depends heavily on international support. Weapons from the United States, financial aid from Europe, humanitarian support from many countries. But when the public stops paying attention, politicians also feel less pressure. In fact, surveys from the Pew Research Center show that support for sending military aid to Ukraine has slowly dropped in several Western countries. For example, in the United States, support among some voters fell from about 60% in 2022 to around 45% in recent surveys. And when political support becomes weaker, aid becomes slower, weapons become fewer. And that is exactly what Russia hopes for. Some analysts even call this strategy war fatigue. The idea is simple. If a war lasts long enough, people get tired, they stop watching, they stop caring. And slowly attention moves somewhere else. Well, you see, history shows this pattern many times. Think about the war in Syria. In the early years, it was one of the biggest stories in the world. But after more than a decade of war, most people barely hear about it anymore, even though the conflict never fully ended. The same thing could happen to Ukraine. And that is why Ukrainian leaders constantly remind the world, please don't forget us. President Zelensky has repeatedly warned that losing global attention could be dangerous for Ukraine because if support weakens, Russia could gain the advantage. But the future of the war is still uncertain. Some experts believe the war could continue for many more years, becoming a long stalemate. Others believe a political settlement may eventually happen. But one thing is very clear, the war did not disappear, the bombs did not stop, the soldiers did not go home, only the headlines moved on. So next time you open the news and you don't see Ukraine in the top stories, remember this, the war is still happening, and sometimes the most dangerous wars are the ones the world stops watching.